unimagined and wild adventures with the aristocratic kind. Doesn't that sound exciting? Hello and welcome to Talkative Reviews, the 5 good things, where every week we tell you about a new film. Today we're going to be talking about the film Sahab
BV or Gangster
Part 3. This is a successful franchise. The first edition came out in 2011 and then there was 2013 and now we have it back again in 2018. But the fact that all of us were curious about it, despite the fact that it doesn't have stars, doesn't have action hijinks, or it's not a comedy film, tells you that this franchise has built its own following, which is quite an achievement.
Yeah,
you know, when we went yesterday, I mean, I was surprised to see that pretty much all of the media and more was present. They were all curious about it, and the auditorium was pretty much packed. You know, the anticipation was pretty high on it, which is always a good sign when a new film is coming out. What was also interesting for me was that it has royalty at the center of it. Now, I'm a big royalty junkie. I love to, look at their photos, follow their lives and, whatnot. And I love watching shows based on them like Royals and there's Crown and all of that. Unfortunately, we don't have too much of that in the Indian scenario. Whatever sort of films that we've had are historicals. So they're not that contemporary. I think Badshah was the last one that we had, which was somewhat connected to royalty, and that was set in 75. So this, a film about royalty in present times in a democracy, is truly fascinating, because this is not England where monarchy is sort of institutionalized in some way, even if it's ceremonious. So what do these aristocrats and royals with their fancy palaces, no power and less money, do in present times? That to me was pretty fascinating. You know, you always think of Gayatri Devi from one of the most fashionable, beautiful women and all these, the glamorous lives, and then suddenly cut to this really sort of dark, unflattering, well, not unflattering really, but a slightly darker, unexpected side of the royalty. Makes for very interesting viewing as far as I'm concerned. I don't know, what about you girls? Do you enjoy this whole royalty stories, Raja Rani ki kahaniyan?
Yeah, I actually look forward to them. So like in modern days, we've hardly had any stories which had royalty as their premise. So even if it was much of a backdrop actually.
Correct. Yeah.
So right now, like royalty as the main premise, it's really fascinating to see all those things, how Maharajas and Maharanis behave.
True. Kanika, you're not a big fan, I know, but what did you think of it?
Yeah, the trailer for one definitely didn't excite me. I found it kuch zyada dramatic. But I found myself very enthralled throughout the movie, and that is quite something, despite, like you said, not being a royalty buff.
True. I think it was fascinating because of the way the characters were etched out, and full marks. And here I need to single out the two, the Raja and the Rani, which is Jimmy Shergill and Mahi Gill, who play the king and the queen respectively of their little pocket. And their struggles to stay in power, to stay relevant. And these two actors have done such a fine job that despite not being sort of projected or touted as the stars in this film, they completely hold your interest. Like Mahi, she is like awesome from beginning till end, because she's devious, she's manipulative, she will do anything to keep the power with her, and she performs brilliantly. You just can't take your eyes off her, and she's a diabolical character, but because she plays it so well, you're constantly interested in, what is she up to next. And her husband, played by Jimmy Shergill, is equally devious, although in a slightly more restrained way. So his was a more difficult act in that sense, because he's just come back from jail. He has to depend on his wife to sort of get back to power, and he's not liking it one bit. But regardless, he is somebody that you can't help liking. There's an affability to him, and all in all, the two of them really shine. And because they're characters from the earlier editions, sometimes it can become repetitive, or they can feel like, okay, now you can do away with these two people, but at no point do you feel that way about the both of them. In fact, you now want to watch the next one with the both of them again playing the titular roles. You had something to say about Jimmy actually.
He is the dark horse in this story.
Right.
And he doesn't even have too many scenes or dialogues to his credit. But despite that, he plays this menacing, calculative, indifferent king effortlessly, you know.
Correct. Vasudha, I think you were quite fascinated by Mahi Gill too,
Yeah,
right?
I really like Mahi Gill a lot because, you know, till now we had these images of royalties in India, like they are wearing these beautiful expensive saris, pearl necklaces, and Maharanis are very poised. But over here I see a queen who is very shrewd and very calculative, who will do anything to stay in power. And like there is this scene where a worker brings her mithai and she forcefully stuffs it into his mouth. She knows he's diabetic, but she forces him, no, eat it, eat it.
Yes, absolutely. I think old habits die hard, as they say, you know. The royalty is used to ruling over people, and that habit doesn't go away very quickly, right? But, you know, I mean, we were talking about the characters, and obviously there are two parts to it. The performances, which we just spoke about, and then there's the writing, you know. And Sanjay Chauhan and Tigmanshu Dhulia, who've co-written the film, have done such a good job with the story and with the dialogues. The screenplay, I can sort of pick a few holes here and there, but regardless, nothing that took away my attention from the film as such, but the way that they've created this world, you know, the insecurities of the royals, what are their concerns, how do they stay relevant, who gets into politics, who gets to keep the Haveli, who sort of turns it into a heritage hotel, etc., etc. And then the one-upmanship amongst themselves, you know, and how do they sort of congregate and sort of the hierarchy amongst them and all of those little peculiarities. I think that's brought out very well in the writing. You know, there's that particular dialogue in which Chitrangada Singh says she's a keep of one of the royals, and she tells his brother, her lover's brother, that आपके पूर्वजों ने हमारे पूर्वजों को रखा होगा, पर आप हमें नहीं रख रहे. You know, and that's so powerful and telling, because in today's world, I mean, loosely, that's what I remember of it, but loosely translated, it basically means that in a democracy, you don't owe your existence to anyone, whether it's a royal or anyone else. And that always is the power of good writing. I don't know, what did you girls think?
So yeah, like you were talking about Chitrangada, so I also liked another dialogue of hers where, you know, Deepak Tijori, he tries to assert authority over her, but she tells him, जब नाम ही रह जाए तो नाम की लाज रखनी चाहिए.
Correct, yeah. Karika, you had a completely different take on the dialogues, but it was a relevant one. So
while the characters are layered and the story is very gripping,
right,
I also found a lot of scenes quite amusing, like the scene where they try and stuff the queen grandmother with more tablets to take in the quest of knocking her out so that she's oblivious to what will unfold next.
Absolutely. I think the court intrigues and the palace intrigue never ends, and that is what makes it so exciting. Which brings me to the director of the film, Tigmanshu Dhulia, who's also co-written the film. To me, the mark of a good, engaging film is when you like it despite its flaws. And for Sahab, Biwi Aur Gangster Part 3, I must confess that whatever the flaws were, they didn't matter enough for me to sort of, you know, distract me from the movie. I quite stayed with the story, enjoyed the characters, enjoyed its worldview, and can't help but wait for the next one. So pat on the back to the director for that. And those are the 5 good things from us this week. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to us, follow us on social media, and yes, don't forget to watch the videos in the links below. Thank you.